Greetings everyone, welcome to this new build guide. We're gonna take a look at my fire version of Cost on Crit Cospri Malice Frostbolt Ice Nova build. Normally we would play this as a cold version, but I think there's some key aspects that makes the fire version much better. First of all, we need to understand that there are three very important key aspects that goes into any Cost on Crit build. First of all, it's accuracy, which being taken care of completely. We get 100% accuracy because of some item choices and skill gem choices in our build. So we can completely disregard that one and any affixes that we might need to use up to get close to 100%, because 100% we should always chase on this one. Any percent lower than that and our damage is going to be significantly lower. Second one, which we need 100% on, is the critical strike, because cost on critical strike makes sense to be critical strike then. And that we take care of also through the Ascendancy and some gearing choices, but that one, the cold version can also do the same basically. It just has less affixes, so you need better gear to get there. So it's a little bit cheaper option also to go the fire version. Thirdly, you need the APS, which is the attacks per second. So our cyclone needs to spin around a certain amount of spins per second, or hitting the enemy a certain time per second to actually activate all our spells. To maximize this, we need to hit some breakpoints, which we're gonna talk a little bit lightly in the video. We're not gonna go in depth on this because I have a guide on that on my channel. So if you want to know everything that it goes into Cospri Malice and Cost on Crit, please look at that video, because that one is just gonna take forever to go through here if I need to explain every little part. But so I believe that the fire version is significantly cheaper and better in some aspects, and I'm gonna go through all of them in this. Right now I can run every map mod in the game, including Elemental Reflect, whatever you can think of, I can run it. But that's because of my gear choices. You don't need to do the same. You can get significantly more damage, so I sacrificed some of my damage because I didn't need any more, honestly, instead of my quality of life kind of thing. And as you can see here in the background, I'm running a T16 maps without any problem, fully maxed out. That means you can slap on the Valor, just run all your sextants you want and just run right through it. It's so freaking fast, this build. And I also have a video that I did a few days ago which showcase the boss ability, where I kill Cyrus on Awakener level 8 without any problem. And I did kind of a speed run attempt on it. It was my second try on Cyrus, so I could probably do it a little bit faster than that. So without further ado, let's jump into the guide. For our gearing section, we're gonna start off with our Cospri Malice, which is the keystone of this build. I know it's very expensive, but it's totally worth it to get tier 1 clear speed with just one button to push, and also be able to do all the end game, completely wrecking it with this kind of build. So you're gonna probably spend about 14 exalted just getting these two Cospris, but as soon as you get them, all the other gear pieces should be fairly cheap to actually achieve. So these are the benchmarks. Whatever you're gonna need to do to grind them up, do so. As soon as you got them, switch over. Or some are even switching over with just one Cospri. That works fine also, but I would recommend doing both first. Cospri is very good because trigger a Socrates cold spell on melee critical strike. That means a cyclone is gonna spin here, and the faster our cyclone is spinning, the faster these are gonna trigger. So it's gonna trigger first this one if it has one spell in it, then it's gonna trigger the next one, and it's gonna go back and forth here. And because we have two Cospri Malice, we're gonna need to reach 15.14 attacks per second with our Cyclone, and have Cyclone up here, and it's 12.5 here, but that's only because I'm not hit an enemy. So on bosses, for example, or normal mapping, this value will go up to 15, pretty much exactly. You do not want to exceed 15.14 attacks per second, because then you're going to have a huge loss in damage, which I talk about in my Cospri Malice Cost and Crit video. So if you want more information about all of this, or just swallow what I say whole, that is fine. If you have only one Cospri and one Cost and Crit set up with only one spell in each, then you only need 7.57. And if you double that, that becomes 15.14. Yeah, so simple addition there. But I highly recommend to go with a double Cospri, because it gives you so much damage, such a huge damage increase. The second one we are going to look at, it's going to be our Ephigon. That is going to be our key piece for the fire version of this build. And it's because of two major affixes here. Your hits can't be evaded by blinding an enemy. And because we run Flesh and Stone in Sand Stance, nearby enemies are blinded while in Sand Stance, and also gives us some less damage to attacks from enemies. So it's very good defensive, and it lets us completely bypass the accuracy, which is one of the three major things that you need to have 100% of. So it helps a lot there. And damage penetrates 10% fire resistance against blinded enemies. Again, we have blinded enemies all the time. And penetration has just gotten much more important in this 3.9 when they up the antes of all the life and all the resistance of all the enemies. So super important there. Next item we're going to take a look at is our rings. Mark of the Shaper is dirt cheap right now. And you want to quality up with the caster modifier, so you can get that juicy increased spell damage if your other ring is an elder item, which it is. So if you can see here, my other item is an elder item here, other ring is an elder item. And it gives us increased maximum life, maximum energy shield, all that juicy stuff. But that 96% increased spell damage, that is huge damage. And increased elemental damage on top of that, so really good. Might as well go to the other ring where I have fire damage, some life, some energy shield, some resistances. Obviously you want to cap out your resistances as close as you can get here. You don't need to go too overboard, because one of your flask is actually taking care of that in case you're running one of those maps where you get less resistances. The one you want to talk about here is cursed enemies with level 8 Poacher's Mark on hit. You can also get level 12 here. Poacher's Mark or Warlord's Mark are really good here, because it's going to take care of our leeching needs, especially on mana, because that one is going to be hard. You can also run, if you already have life on this, you can craft on channeling skill, -2 channeling skill mana use. That would make basically our cyclone free, or I think it can go up to 3, so 1 mana for each, which means that you can cyclone forever with the regen we have. So it's very good. Also, in case there's hexproof maps, I have the +3 mana gain for each enemy hit, because we're spinning so fast that is going to sustain us through our whole map. But otherwise you can just run one less of your auras, and that will be taken care of through that. Our chest piece, our 6th link here, is a little bit special. I would suggest that you run lore weave in this slot, but you can basically run any 6th link here with a high life or anything like that. But lore weave is especially good for this build, because it gives us some crit chance, some extra elemental damage. It gives you life, and it gives you max rest also, which is super strong for any build. But this one I chose because of the reduced reflective elemental damage taken. That means I can run every map mod in the game without waiting for those sextant mods that lets me do that normally. So this lets me just val every map, throw it in, don't even look at the mods, and just run it. Also, the second most here is killed enemies explode, dealing 3% of their life as physical damage. That means if I hit one enemy in a pack, that means that one is going to explode, and it's going to explode, and it's going to explode. It's just going to cascade with explosions all over the place. This one I mean, the skills we have already is super clear speed, but this one is basically a mini Impulsa armor right now. All the other stats are really not there, but also it takes care of all the porcupines, all the corpses on the ground. So it's a lot of things that just is quality of life in this one. So I chose this one over a high life or high defensive option. You can do whatever you want there. For our helmet, I would suggest going for the increased cyclone attack speed, because we're gonna need to reach those 15 attacks per second, and it's gonna be hard enough because there's not many places we can get attacks per second. It's on our these attack speed on both our Cospris, on our gloves, and of course on the here and on our jewels. So we kind of want to lessen the punishment of picking attack speed on something else by putting it here. And also the Ice Nova, which would be the other one enchant, would probably be much more expensive. I've seen the prices on those, and those were much more expensive than increased cyclone attack speed. So just pick up one of these. And you want a fossil crafted with Scorch fossils, so you get nearby enemies have -9% fire resistance. Again, this penetrates their fire resistance, super strong. You just want life and resistance on basically all the gear pieces you can, of course, like always. For our gloves, attack speed is priority number 1 probably. And then if you can get some chaos resistance, any other gear piece, that would be splendid. I also have a special mod here, increased critical strike chance against shocked enemies. And because we run skitterbotts, they're running around here, they both shock and freeze our enemies. And because we run the fire version, or chill enemies more exactly, that means we're gonna get the benefit of both these mods by not even running the cold version or a shocking version of this build. That means it's super good. They're gonna take care of it. Plus, skitterbotts do a lot of extra damage, or they give you a lot of extra damage, more accurately. Next one is gonna be our belt. Belt, you just want high life, some resistance if you can, and the most important stat here, which is going to be huge boost for your damage, is the increased cooldown recovery speed. You only need 14%. Anything over 14% increased cooldown recovery speed is completely useless for your damage. So if you get 14 exactly and trying to divine it even higher, you're wasting your currency. You can also get increased cooldown recovery speed on your boots, but I would not recommend this slot because it's so much harder. It's only one tier of it, and it's going to be a lot of other stats you want on these boots. So I would highly recommend to run it on a shaper belt. And then finally we are going to go over to our crown jewel here, which I crafted myself. This is completely overpowered, and I would not recommend this item otherwise. I just managed to hit the good ones, and I had some currency to throw around. And what you want on this is just high movement speed, you want life, and if you can, if you have currency for it, go for the Tailwind mod, because Tailwind gives you 10% multiplicative bonuses to all your things. That means you are gonna have, if you have 300 movement speed, you are gonna multiply that by 10%. That means you get 30% extra movement speed. The same works for attack speed. You're gonna multiply whatever attack speed you have by 10%, and you're gonna get that on top of it. And we're always gonna get this buff as soon as we hit a boss or an enemy, whatever. And obviously the elusive one is completely useless for us because I just made these for selling, but they were so good that I just kept them. And otherwise, damage penetrates 10% of enemy elemental resistance. If you haven't killed recently, it's the ideal one enchantment you want on the boots. It's very expensive because it's the most uncommon one, I believe. And the reason why we want it is because, yeah, clear speed, we already have all we need. So the only thing we might need extra damage on is bosses that doesn't have any enemies around them. That, yeah, so it just boosts our clear speed in general right there. And for our bonus thing here, if you are willing to switch between your main hand and offhand like this, if you kill the first pack with this weapon on there, you're gonna have a rampage up for the rest of the map as long as you keep killing stuff. That means extra movement speed and extra attack damage. So hopefully this all made sense, and let's go over to the next area. For our flask, we're gonna start with our panic button flask, which is gonna be our life flask. It's gonna be a seeding one, so we get it instantly recovery. Instant recovery means that we are clicking it and we're getting all the life instantly. That means if we're in a bad situation, we can just click it and get back to a reasonable amount of health. It's not gonna be full, but we might get back, and you can spam it or something like that to get full health again. And also I recommend to have the bleeding mod on this slot, because if you take damage from bleeding, you probably want to have that on the same button so you don't get confused with the whole clicking thing. So I always set up this one exactly the same. Next important one is going to be our diamond flask. We do want this one because of the critical strike. Because it's a cost on crit, we need to get our 100% critical strike rate. So this one helps us a lot. And I also go with remove curses on use. So during this whole duration of 6.4 seconds, we are immune against curses. This is extremely good on maps, because when you're valing your maps, like I always do, you cannot re-roll certain map mods. That means it doesn't matter what kind of curses we get on the map mods, this completely negates those, because we're gonna kill enemies so fast that we're gonna have basically this diamond flask up 100% of the time. So if we have temporal chains, that means we're not gonna get slowed through the whole map, which is extremely useful for both clear speed and survivability. The next one we're gonna talk about is Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline. I normally take Adrenaline here, which is increased movement speed during flask effect, but you can also go with the freezing mod that I have here on my quartz flask. I didn't find that I needed it, because nothing can kill me in the amount of times. When I click a strong box, for example, and I get frozen, nothing can kill me in the time it takes me to get unfrozen and kill them anyway. So I switched out that mod for the adrenaline. But you can choose either way. If you want some more safety, then of course go for freezing here. Or you can just replace one of the other flasks that I'm going to talk about soon. The next choice, all of the ones that I've talked about now, is dirt cheap. The same thing goes for the Wise Oak. If you want the well-rolled one, it's a little bit more expensive, but still really cheap. Its damage penetrates 15% or up to 15% resistant. That means of each element which your uncapped elemental resistance is the highest. That means we're doing fire damage. That means fire resistance needs to be the highest. So make sure this one is the highest or equal to the highest. So you can have multiple ones at 114%. But if this one was 114 and this one was 114, we will still get the damage bonus. And the same thing goes for the other mod, the top mod, the 10% reduced damage taken for each element which your uncapped elemental resistance is the lowest. That means if we have everything here as 114% or 76, that means we will get elemental, take 10% reduced elemental damage. That is extremely useful for some bosses. For example, Cyrus the Awakener. He does all the elements. He does fire damage, he does lightning damage, and he does cold damage. So that means you're gonna take much less damage during this fight. So extremely important. If you can, try to balance your stats. And I normally do that through my items. So as you can see here, I took the resistance modifier for plus 3% to just get one extra cold rest. So I could at least get 2 of these equal, because there was no way I would do all 3. We're gonna get back to Bottle of Faith, because that one is extremely expensive, but we're gonna start with this one, because normally I would go like this. Quartz Flask is extremely good because it gives us defense and it gets us phasing, which means that we can just run through enemies. It also gives us a slot to get that freezing immunity, but lately I went with this one. Bottle of Faith is a godsend. It's a really super good bottle or a flask, but it's over 10 exalted last time I looked, and it's worth every penny in my mind. It created this concentrated ground, and it's so big because it has triple radius of normal. That means also we have increased damage, but the triple radius of this concentrated ground is going to give us free effects basically, or even more. It's going to give us critical strike chance against enemies. That means we're going to get so much more critical chance strike. This gives me close to 100%. I think I'm 98 or 99% at the moment. And it also increased damage taken. That is multiplicative to your damage output. So huge damage from this one. Huge quality of life to get that extra percentage to our... That means we don't need it on our chest piece. That increased critical strike chance. And yeah, if we can get it higher, it goes all the way up to 2%. So if you can get it as... I should actually divine this one, so I get 100% critical strike chance. But extremely good. You can also go with a Serious Promise, which gives us some extra life leech and some extra damage. And for those maps where we have no region, then I would have one of these mana flasks just to swap in for whatever flask you want. I normally swap it in for Wise Oaks and just switch that one out. So those are the flasks. Let's go to the next. For our jewels, we are going to use, first of all, a Frozen Trail. Without this one, this build would not be as good as it is. I don't think it would be working at all, because it makes our frostbolt shoot out extra frostbolts each time it procs. So that means we can have Ice Novas proccing from those frostbolts, and they're gonna fly further away. That means we're gonna clear even faster and even further away, even in our safety right there. So super good, and it does not need to be allocated the points, so don't worry about not having them clicked in the intelligence. You can also get Corrupted Blood on this one if you want to really go hardcore here, because Corrupted Blood can kill you on maps. It's not very often, but it happens. So there's something I picked up from hardcore. On the normal jewels, the rest of the slots you can just fill in with normal jewels, which means that you're gonna need maximum life on each one of these. If you want to go a cheaper option, then of course then you can skip some of these mods, but I would highly recommend that you pick maximum, increase maximum life on each and every jewel here. As you can see, we have quite a few. So here you can have a real money sink, or you can make it cheap for yourself. What I also pick up is any resistance that I extra need. So if you want to balance your resistance, here's also a good spot to do that. Some extra stat if you need them for getting those dex requirement on your Cospris, because intelligence we have plenty of on the tree. Otherwise, we also you need to remember we have dual wielding, because we have two here. So make sure you go on PoE database and just see which mods you can have on jewels, and just transfer those mods into the trade site so you can get all the best mods on your jewels. So the more jewels you click into the search engine and then just search, the higher the chance you can get something cheap for your build. So that's what I did. I just went there and copied over every single mod that I could possibly want. Here's also a good spot to get a lot of attack speed. I've taken away those because Tailwind and Enchant took care of a lot of this. You can also get a Watcher's Eye that take precision here, and you get 15 extra %, and it's not that expensive, that mod on a Watcher's Eye. So if you want some extra attack speed, so the jewels are an excellent place to go to. Otherwise, crit multiplier, spell damage and everything. We do not scale cyclone attack, so please do not do any attack speed, or attack speed is fine, but no attack damage or anything, because cyclone is a non-damaging skill in this case, or is so low that it's negligible. For our skill gems, we're gonna go with our 6 link first. It's gonna be Cyclone linked with cost on critical strike, which is the cornerstone of this build. I highly recommend you go also with increased critical strike support, because we want to reach those high level of critical strike 100% if we can. And we also go with faster attack, because the faster we spin, the more we're gonna proc together with our critical strike. So we want to reach those 15.14 attacks per second with Cyclone, or just under. Do not go over 15.14 or you're gonna lose out on a lot of damage. We also go with Wave of Conviction as our spell here, because it's gonna debuff our enemy and also shoot out this wave that does extremely high damage. So I would not switch out this one either. The only slot that I have open here for whatever you want is Fortify support. I use it for defense, but you can use it for a damage one either. Also, you can use it for concentrated effect maybe, or elemental focus, I don't know. Test it out yourself and see which one in Path of Building which give you the biggest boost. But I would keep it like this, and because we have plenty of damage anyway. For our 2 Cospris, we of course gonna need to put in a cold to fire support, because right now we're converting 50% of our damage through our tree here in Avatar of Fire, and we're gonna convert the rest of it with cold to fire. So that means we're converting 100% of our cold damage into fire. So everything, that means we can use combustion, for example, for our frostbolt. And the same thing here, we can use our Ice Nova together with Cold of Fire, because we want to convert both of these. This one we do not need to convert, because Wave of Conviction is already fire, so we don't need to convert those. But we need cold spells in these to trigger. So that's why we actually need to put a cold spell in here with Cold to Fire. An Elemental Focus is a good one here also. You can switch around these, but I found that these are gonna be definitely the best to debuff the enemy and to do massive damage, because Ice Nova is a really good spell, because it's gonna proc twice on every frostbolt. So you shoot out a frostbolt, then it's gonna, those Ice Novas that you trigger with this second Cospri is gonna trigger on those frostbolts. For our next one, we are going to talk about the links we have up here. We are going to have Righteous Fire, not Righteous Fire itself, because we're going to have the Val version. So this is usually something spell builds use to boost your damage, because when you kick in Val Righteous Fire, you lose a certain percent of your life, but then you can easily just hit your Flask and get that up again. But it does no damage really, but it boosts your damage of your spells. So it's highly recommended if you want that extra boss damage. If you link it with increased duration, it's going to be a longer duration. So I highly recommend to set it up in the same link as the other things here. Vortex takes care of it's a damage over time and other things. And especially if you trigger it as soon as you do Frostbolt, that is very good also, because then you're going to have basically Vortex all over the place. And it also helps us activate Arcane Surge, which gives us again some more spell damage and some mana regen, which is might be good, especially in the early game where you might not have the same gear as me. So highly recommended right there, this setup. Flesh and Stone, of course, we need to go into Sand Stance together with our so we can blind enemies. We already talked about that in the gearing section, so this is a must. A second one is Summon Skitterbotts, because we want to shock and chill our enemies. Shock, we do more damage to the enemies, and chill is also so we can get all those extra critical strike chance, and there also we have shocked enemies take extra critical strike chance and stuff like that. So highly recommended to do Skitterbotts. I would not switch it out for anything else. Precision level 1 is also really good. It costs almost nothing. It's 22 and it gives you a fair bit of critical strike chance, so highly recommend to put one in if you have an extra slot. And also there's some good Watcher's Eye affixes that you can use if you have this one. I don't use it at the moment, but still. Portal, I'm too lazy to bring portal scrolls, so I always use portal in all my builds. Next one is going to be Herald of Ash, because we're running fire. We're going to have overkill damage. There's basically going to explode all around you, so super good there. Leap Slam to get over those ledges, so I switched from Whirling Blades to Leap Slam to get over ledges and everything, and just jump around, basically jump over objects so you don't take extra damage. And link it with faster attacks to do it even faster. You can see here I'm jumping pretty fast. Whirling Blade is going to be faster, but Whirling Blades doesn't let you get over those ledges. Culling Strike is very good if you have, like, if you can see my latest video, it has I'm culling in Cyrus level 8 at the last 10%. So I'm just jumping on top of him and taking care of the damage that way. So these are my setup. I have done a lot of experimentation, and this is what I've ended up with. So there's no expensive slots here. Of course you want to quality up a few of these and try to get all the spells to level 21. I just switched this one yesterday, so none of my kills have this one. So this is the first time. I have not even tried it out yet. So highly recommend to upgrade them and try to put them all at quality 21, which I have obviously not done myself. For our passive tree, I went with this setup because it gives a good synergy between both survivability and damage. So we're neither sacrificing in any of those areas. Of course, if you want more damage, there's options for that. If you more survivability, there's options for that too. But I think this is the best outcome that we can have, and I think it's optimizing both sides in a good manner. So we obviously go up here, get some elemental damage, and if you want some extra life early, then obviously these are good. Here is something you can get for increased attack speed if you have a problem. Also gives you some dex and intelligence if you need that also. But increased attack speed is good if you cannot reach that 15.14 benchmark when it comes to attacks per second for your cyclone, or just under that. That means if this one you might click, but I already have that, so I could unclick that one and use it somewhere else. Then you also want to travel down here and pick up all the nodes on the way. That buffs us, of course. Jewel nodes you can of course wait with, except this one you might want to get early because of the frozen trail. And then you want to work your way to face acrobatics. That gives you both chance to dodge and chance to dodge spells here, both attacks and spells, with the negative side effect of less energy shield, less armor, less chance to block spells and stuff like that. But it's not a big minus for our build because we're not stacking those a little bit or that much. We have some energy shield, but it's not really one of our main points here. Then we just want to pick up some crit multi, some critical strike here, some life. You can skip this section for later when you have more points, but I took it in the beginning anyway. Some life and some energy shield here, and strength is pretty good to have because some of our gems require high strength value and you might not have that on your gear. So you can pick up, obviously this one you get by any means because you want that increased maximum life. But you can also get extra strength from this node, which is fairly good. This one I only take if I had one more level, 2 more levels, 3 more levels, then I would just work my way inwards to this spot. But this is an extra one, so this extra one right here is just because I hit level 95, 96, 97, 98. This one can wait. Anointment on my amulet, I always pick this one because Snowforge is a really good node, and then that means I don't need to path all the way to get there. That means I save up 3 points already at the start right here. Then I would path my way all over here and I would pick up these nodes for some extra damage, some maximum life and so on. Power charges are gonna boost our critical strike chance, and as you know we already do that with an Ascendancy, so it's a good synergy there. We always get our maximum power charges at any point. And then I would, if you have converted to fire already, then I would take these nodes, but you can only use those nodes if you have already picked Avatar of Fire and picked the amulet that we are using, and have the cold to fire conversion in your weapons. So don't take these nodes, because these nodes are very powerful, because any penetration is basically gold right here, and it gives us some leech to our energy shield, which is a fair use. I mean, we have 823, which is good. And then some I would probably take the nodes, the jewel nodes last, unless you have really OP jewels. And then some critical strike nodes, some extra life. These two I would take last, and just if I need extra point to be used, for example the attack speed, then I would take out one of these out of here, because it's only 4% extra life. Some power charges, some extra damage nodes here, and some life regen. You might not want to take this one. I just took it because I was tired of not regening any life on bosses. So if you're playing Cyrus, for example, and Awaken at level 8, then you can just run from the fight and then just regen some of that life back. It's gonna take forever, but still you're gonna get some life back at a decent pace. So this was my passive tree. I think this is pretty well optimized, and I would not switch anything at this point. For our ascendancies, we are always going to pick the same ones. We're going to start with opportunistic. It gives us increased movement speed, some more damage against rare and unique bosses, which is really good because that's the only place we might actually struggle on. And reduce damage taken if there's 2 rares, which might happen on, or 2 unique bosses. Might happen when you have really tight packed maps. Next one, we would go for unstable infusion and deadly infusion. We want to work our way down here. Obviously this one is going to generate all the power charges we need. As soon as we hit the first pack, that is done. And the maximum power charge helps us a lot with our critical strike chance. Also, we are going to have this one, which is going to give us crit multiplier per power charge, and because we're stacking some power charges, that's going to be quite a lot. And the critical strike chance while at maximum power charge, that is flat 2%. That is not increased, which means that is going to be a huge boost to our critical strike. And increased movement speed is always good, so we get that both from opportunistic, deadly infusion, and Mistwalker. We're going to get a lot of extra movement speeds. As you can see, this assassin builds are extremely fast. And Mistwalker, we gain elusive basically all the time because we crit all the time. So basically what elusive is a buff that gives you 20% chance to dodge spell and attack hits, and also increase movement speed. But this buff is also only as soon as you crit, it's at max level, and then it's gonna slowly lower its value all the way down to 0, and all the buffs it gives you all the way down to 0. Then you can apply it again and again and again. So it's gonna be diminishing values the longer the buff has been up, but it's basically gonna be up all the time. It's not just, it might not be at the maximum value all the time. Increase attack and cost speed while elusive is up, so we basically can click in 20% of our tree if you want to do that on Path of Building by just adding 20, or click onslaught like I did, then you can do that. Because when you have on the Path of Building, this increased attack speed will not pop up unless you add it manually. And reduce damage taken, of course, is very good because that's going to be up all the time. Increased elusive effect, also very good, so you can multiply that by 1.25, all the buffs I just mentioned below. And you take no extra damage from critical strike while elusive is up. That is extremely good, because that means we're not going to get those extremely high spike of damage hits. So there we have our ascendancies. For our Pantheons, I always pick Soul of Lunaris for the extra additional physical damage reduction and the extra movement speed if I'm nearby enemies. So when we're running through the maps, we always have these up. And also void projectiles have chain, so you kind of want to upgrade all of these to max. So you want to take your divine vessels, find out where these special captures are, and just use them up on this one. It's extra defenses on all around. You can also use Soul of Solaris, but this one is probably better for bosses, but I normally just stick to this one the whole time. But if you want to have a stronger bossing capability, then you switch over to this one, fully upgraded on bosses. This one I never changed is Soul of Shakiri. You have a less damage taken from chaos, and also immune to poison. That means we can completely negate all the poison damage in this game and completely forget about it, which is super nice. For our bandits, I recommend either to kill them all for the 2 extra points, or this might be the first build I'm actually going for one of the bandits, because a Lyra is quite good on this. It gives us crit multiplier, which is a great damage boost. It gives us I think it's 12% elemental resistance to all elements, which is really nice quality of life. Then we don't need to pick that up on any other space. And we also get mana regen, because I had some problems with mana regen early game. Probably don't have that now in a later one, but it helps us with our mana regeneration while we're spinning around with our cyclone. That means we don't need to use a mana flask, or we don't need to invest in any mana regen on other spots. So I highly recommend going for a Lyra. There we have it. We have completed the full guide, and I've shortened it down. I know it's still long, but trust me when I say this, I shortened it down as much as I possibly could. If you have any questions, or if I missed something, please take a look in the comment section. I will add things as we go along. If I miss something major, then I will pin a comment on top of all the other comments. And I also have a video on how Cospri Malice and Cost on Crit mechanics work. So if you have any more questions about that, maybe you want to look at that video first and then ask me. But always, you're free to write any comments you want, and I will try to get back to you as fast as I can. I took some liberties also in Path of Building to increase my shock. So because there's no specific shock button in that's specialized for these kind of builds, what it does is right now in Path of Building is that it gives you 50% increased damage taken to enemies, which is not true. We have 25 or something like that, but I cannot click it away because first we get the extra damage, and on top of that we also need it for the critical strike chance. I could not add the shock any other way. So you kind of need to lower the damage by a little bit, and you will get the real value of all my spells. But it's pretty accurate otherwise. And I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, then please put a like on this video and subscribe to my channel for future content just like this. Have an awesome day, everyone.